Hey guys, and welcome. So we are going to be walking through how to make a pumpkin roll totally from scratch using Grandma's recipe. And this is like the best pumpkin roll ever. So it is from Handmade, page 208. And I'm going to be walking you through live how to make a pumpkin roll. It uses fresh pumpkin. You can also use canned, but we're going to be using fresh because we're doing it up from scratch, homesteading style. And I'm going to show you all the steps to get that cake to turn out perfect, how to pop it out of your pan and roll it without it cracking. Fingers crossed. I've not had it crack, but you know, we're on here live. So I'm going to show you that with all of Grandma's tips and tricks that she gave me when she first taught me how to make her recipe. So welcome guys. We are going to get started. So my name is Melissa K. Norris, and as I said, I'm the author of Handmade, which this recipe and lots of holiday recipes are from. And we're going to start mixing up the recipe. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to be putting in eggs. Specifically, this recipe calls for 3 eggs, and we're going to be making it right from the book. I do have to say, though, that there is a slight typo on the amount of pumpkin in the book recipe. I just contacted my editor so we can get that fixed. No matter how many times something goes through edits, it seems like there's one thing you're going to miss. So stay tuned for that update. Okay, we have got 3 eggs here. You can use whatever kind of eggs you want. When you're doing cakes, room temperature eggs are actually better. So these are room temperature eggs. And if you've got eggs from your chickens, then I don't even put those in the fridge. Make sure we're actually popped and ready to go. Okay, 3 eggs. So we're going to get those in. And this part of whipping the eggs is actually pretty important. Grandma informed me that I was not whipping my eggs long enough. So we are going to put this on, and hopefully the mixer is not too loud because I'm going to walk through some other steps while it's going. But you're going to put this on. Make sure I have that actually popped into place there. And you're going to mix or whip the eggs for almost 5 minutes. You want them super, 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 super foamy. Grandma's instructions, okay? So we're going to put that on about a 6. And I'm going to set my timer for about 4 minutes. Okay, so we have got the eggs whipping. They're going to whip for about 5 minutes. So next up is we need to get our pan ready. So the size of your pan and the type of pan is important. It needs to be a jelly roll pan. And it is actually a 10 by 15 inch pan. And this pan actually says 16 by 11. That's the outer circumference. So if you measure, this is actually a 10 by 15. And you don't want it to have beveled edges. You just want it to be flat. So if you look online, some of the pans that say they're jelly roll pans actually have a beveled edge, and they're not a true jelly roll pan. You want it to be totally flat. And like I said, 15 by 10. If you have a bigger or smaller pan, then you're going to get the thickness. It's either going to be too thin or too thick. And this is the size with this specific recipe that we need it to be so that it cooks at the right thickness and we can roll it, okay? So we need to get our pan prepped for when our eggs are ready and we add everything in. So there's a couple options that you've got for prepping your pan. I'm going with old-fashioned, the way Grandma showed me originally on how to do it. And that is to grease this baby up. In today's society, we seem to be a little bit scared of fat, and if you don't grease it up enough, you are going to have your cake stick to it, and we need it to come out clean in order to roll it. I don't use shortening in my kitchen, so we're going to go with coconut oil. And so you just want to grease it up pretty thick. Like, don't be afraid to glob it on, okay? So we're going to grease this up. You have one other option that I actually saw last night when I was online, and I thought it was kind of genius. I do this with my bread pans, but a gal used parchment paper and lined her jelly roll pan with parchment paper so you can lift it up and not stick it. I haven't personally tried it, and being this is per Grandma's instructions, we're going to go this way today. And I realize not everybody has, most people have parchment paper in their kitchen, but you might want to make this. You're like, I don't have parchment paper, and I tell you what, if I don't have to go to the grocery store around the holidays and beat those lines, I am not going there. So I'm going to lift this up and show you. We've got this bad boy greased pretty well. So I think you can actually see there in the camera, we've got it greased. So next up, we need to flour it, okay? The other beautiful thing, you guys, about doing pumpkin roll is this freezes exceptionally well. So if you want to make, like I'm making this up now, and you can freeze it. Grandma makes up like 3 or 4, and she'll freeze them, and then she'll bring 2 out at Thanksgiving and 2 out at Christmas. So you can make these and freeze these, and then you don't have to worry about it when it gets close to the holiday. You just let it thaw out in the fridge, and they need to be chilled anyway, so it kind of works perfect. And they're just as good frozen as they are fresh. So there's a tip for you, time-saving wise. When we don't have a lot of time and our oven is packed. Okay, look how foamy those are. Can you guys see that? So that's what we're looking for when we're beating eggs for cake, is you want it super, super foamy. So we're gonna flour this after it's greased. And then I'm sure y'all have floured a pan before, but I'm just gonna tell you what, trying to do this towards the camera, not myself. I'm all backwards. So anyhow, we're just gonna put the flour so that it's coated everything evenly. And the reason I wear an apron is because I'm a messy, messy cook in the kitchen, y'all. And you know what? It's a sign of a good cook. At least that's what I'm going for. So I always have an apron on because I just make a mess all over the place. And if you get the book handmade, you can get this apron for 45% off coupon. So there's other coupons as well, but if you're like me and you're an apron girl, you can get this one. Super cute. Get the apron with the book for a gift. You can go to handmadethebook.com. All the bonus info is in there. And if you've already ordered the book but you didn't get your bonuses, you can still grab them there too. Okay, so our pan is ready. Our eggs are beat. So now we're going to walk back over to the KitchenAid and we're going to mix everything up, okay? So, following our recipe, we've preheated the oven to 375 degrees. We've got our pan ready, and we have whipped our lovely eggs up, right? Now, I already put in, I mixed in the spices and the baking powder with the sugar and the flour already. But we're going to cream together the spices and the sugar with the eggs and our pureed pumpkin. So I'm going to go ahead and dump that in there, and we're doing 2/3 cup of, you can use canned pumpkin, not pumpkin pie filling, but just canned pumpkin. But I've got an abundance of pumpkins from the garden, and so I will show you while this is cooking, while we're waiting for it, my new favorite way to cook up pumpkin and then puree it up for all of these fun fall recipes. So there is 1/3, and we actually want 2/3. So we're going to put 2/3 a cup in there. And then we're going to cream this together before we add in the baking powder and the flour. And then I've got a little bit left over. I might have to make another one. Okay. So we're just going to cream that together. Lift it back up there. And put it on about a 2. And I think you guys can all see that, so we're going to cream it together. Okay, so we are creaming this together. I'm going to spin it up a little bit more. And that is just enough. So that was 2/3 cup of pumpkin, a cup of sugar, and our spices, which for the spices, I use 1½ teaspoons ground cinnamon, ½ teaspoon nutmeg, ½ teaspoon ginger, and then it's only 3/4 cup of flour. So we're just gonna, I'm gonna sprinkle that in, and ½ teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of baking powder. And this is actually using fresh ground spelt. So you can also do, I haven't tried it with einkorn yet, but it works really well with spelt. You can also use all-purpose flour. It's such a small amount of flour in this batter that it doesn't, you don't really have to alter it very much. So we're just gonna mix this until it's all combined. Turn that up just a little bit. Okay, there we go, guys. That works pretty quick. So I'm going to put you back over here to my jelly roll pan because we've already got that prepped. You guys didn't know you were going to be getting a tour around the kitchen, did you? Oh, my camera's a little bit wonky there. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to put this into our prepared pan, and I just realized I don't have that part all the way floured, and I want it to be floured around the edge of the rim so that it doesn't stick, and my flour didn't quite reach there. There we go. So you want to check the rim of your pan and make sure that the flour is all the way up on the rim edges before you go ahead and put your batter in there. because we don't want it to stick. Okay. And as you know, I said I'm a messy cook. Okay, our pan here is ready. Take out our mixer. And this one, actually, the first time that Grandma did this, I totally jumped. I was not expecting it. And you'll know what I'm talking about in just a minute. So we're just gonna pour this in, and you kind of scrape the sides of the pan just to make sure everything's incorporated from your stand mixer. You can also do this by hand, but if you've got a KitchenAid mixer, it just makes it way super faster. Okay, so we're all combined, so we're just gonna go ahead and pour this into our pan. And scrape it all out of there. Having a spatula definitely helps. Then you're just gonna kind of smooth it over into the corners. And remember, this is fairly thin. So I know if you're looking at this, you're like, oh my goodness, so there's not hardly enough batter. But it's gonna rise obviously when it cooks, and you don't want it to be thick. We need it to be thin enough that after it's baked, that we can actually roll this to get, hence the name, right? Pumpkin roll. Or if you're making, like, you know, jelly roll cakes. So just take it and kind of smooth the batter out as evenly as possible over to the all sides of the pan. I just use the back of the spatula, works fine. And then just kind of eyeball it and smooth it, because we don't really want you know, any spots that are a lot thicker than others. So you can just kind of eyeball it and smooth it thin there. Now this next step, I was telling you, when Grandma did this, I totally jumped. I wasn't expecting it. I was just watching, and she did this, and I jumped. And Grandma says this is important because you do not want bubbles or air pockets in your dough. So she just picks it up, and she just drops it. But I wasn't expecting it. It was loud. Hopefully it's not as loud on camera. And so she did this about 3 or 4 times, and she said that brings any air pockets or any air bubbles up and out of the cake. So I don't question Grandma when she tells me to do it. We just go ahead and do it. So we're going to go ahead, we preheated it to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And then bake time, actually I have to check that, I don't have it memorized, is 13 to 15 minutes or until it comes out clean. My oven tends to cook a little on the low side, so we're going to go for 15 minutes. So we are getting out a clean tea towel. And yes, this is clean, but I use them a lot, so you may see some stains on here, but it's totally clean. So we are gonna, this one's actually really big. So we're gonna just fold this here. And so we're gonna set that out, and you're gonna sprinkle it with powdered sugar. And the reason for that is we don't want the cake to stick to it, but we don't wanna use flour because it's already baked, so we're gonna use powdered sugar. But this is the way that Grandma does it. And it's actually my husband's grandma that this recipe is from. And she's like known for her pumpkin rolls. Like, I'm not kidding you, people like put in orders and she'll make them up at Christmas for them. They're really good. And we have like kind of this standing joke in our family. I'll ask Grandma for recipes and she'll give them to me, and she will swear that's exactly how she makes them. Like, it's written down exactly. And I'll go to make it and it never tastes quite like Grandma's. So I just started going to Grandma's and getting lessons for everything that's her recipe, like her no-bakes and pumpkin roll. And when I first started making strawberry jam, because I got a little bit tired of my husband saying, well, it's not quite like Grandma's. And I'm like, we're going to get it like Grandma's. So you guys are getting everything she taught me. Okay, so I'm just going to sprinkle this fairly liberally, about the size of what your pan is, right here on the tea towel. Okay. And it's a good thing it's the holidays, right? So I'm not worrying about sugars for the holiday, okay? Alrighty. So that's pretty well, we're pretty good there on our powdered sugar. Okay, hot pads are a must. Okay, so we've got our hot pads here, and I'm going to turn on my oven light because this is almost ready to come out. Yep, okay. We're good. Whew. Oh, you guys, I wish you could smell this. It smells delicious. Like, seriously, like Christmas and Thanksgiving all in one. Okay, so while this is hot, really, really hot, you can see it's ready because at the edge of the pan, if it's showing, it's just starting to pull away from the edge of the pan. That's another way to know that your pumpkin roll is ready to come out. So take a knife and you want to run it along the edges just in case that it's sticking anywhere. And I kind of go a couple times. And I'll even take a little bit of the knife and kind of lift up on the edges just to check. See how we're going like that? So that I make sure that when I flip this baby upside down, she's all coming out. Okay. So hot pads, and we're just going to flip it out right over top of the powdered sugar. So I just line it up like this, and whoo, we have a little bit of powder coming up, snow. And then I just kind of tap lightly on there. And then you might need to use the knife. Be careful, it's still really hot. Gotta pull it up. Okay? So there we go. All came out in one piece. I gotta tell you, I was a little nervous about doing this live. I'm like, it'll be the one time it doesn't come out. Okay, next up is we have another clean tea towel. I promise it's clean. They just get a lot of use and love in my kitchen. So we're gonna roll this like this, okay? I roll this up like that. You're just gonna take it just like you would a sleeping bag from the narrow or skinny end, and you're just gonna start rolling. And you gotta do this when it's hot, you guys. You gotta do it when it's hot. Okay, we're gonna roll, 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 roll. That's how you roll it. So now we gotta put this in the fridge, and it's all wrapped up. You're gonna let this chill, just like this in the fridge. So you gotta do it when it's really hot. You can't wait. If you wait, the cake doesn't have the memory and it will crack. So we've got this rolled up, and it's actually a good thing it's still hot because it's gonna retain some of that moisture. So as it cools, because we don't want it to be too dry, right? Because that will help crack too. So now you're just gonna put this in the fridge until it's completely cool down to the touch, which can take an hour or so. It's gonna take it a little bit, but put it in the fridge, and I put it same side down because that's how when you put it on the plate after you got the filling in, that you put it is seam side down too. So you wanna do everything when it's hot exactly as you're gonna do when it's cold. So you're just gonna put it in the fridge. I don't know if you can see it's kind of steam in there too. Actually, it feels good. My house is cold on my hands. So this is gonna go in the fridge. So we've got the filling is really easy cream cheese filling. You're gonna do 1 package of cream cheese, which is 8 ounces of cream cheese. And then you're gonna do half a cup of butter. And if you wanted to, because this filling is not cooked, right? We've cooked the pumpkin roll, but the filling is not cooked. You can go ahead and use cream cheese with live cultures. I'm not gonna lie and say that makes the recipe healthy because there's sugar in there, but you will that way be getting some health benefits. Along with this recipe, we used fresh ground spelt from our grain mill. So this is made with fresh flour, but no worries. If you don't have a grain mill, you can use all-purpose to make it. And to get the recipe, there's a print button. You can get that at melissaknorris.com/pumpkin roll, but you'll want to wait till you actually get to see it in action. So we've got softened butter, half a cup of softened butter, and then 8 ounces of cream cheese. And then we've got a cup of powdered sugar. So we're gonna go ahead and dump that in there. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. So I make homemade vanilla extract, so we're gonna be using that. And I just kind of eyeball it. You don't even have to measure it out, because if you have a little bit extra vanilla, it's okay. Vanilla tastes fabulous. So I'm just gonna we're just gonna eyeball it, about a teaspoon in there. Now, if you wanted to, you could also add a couple teaspoons of maple extract or even maple syrup. I don't actually have maple extract. I always have maple syrup. If you want to give it a little bit of a mapley flavor, you can do that too. So we're just going to put this on stir and get it all creamed together. Hopefully you guys can see that. So we just let that do its thing until it's all creamed. And I'm going to spatula to help it. I could have probably set my cream cheese out a little bit earlier and it would have got a little bit softer, but I didn't. And that's okay. Okay, let's come back up. So it's pretty much creaming together there. So now it's kind of sticking in the center because it's not totally soft. But it's going to be easier to spread and cream together if it's soft. So we're just going to kind of spread that out there and get it off the center. And then I'm going to speed it up a little bit because it's actually going to cream together better with a little bit of speed. There we go. I like to get it kind of whipped, a little bit of a whip texture. Okay guys, so that is whipped pretty good. I like to get it a little bit whipped so it's nice and creamy there. And that's basically like a cream cheese the buttercream filling, but it's super good. Okay, let's get this here, and now we're gonna pull our pumpkin roll that's been chilling since we rolled it in the fridge. Let's make sure you guys can see there. Okay, so we had this earlier when we rolled it. Make sure you guys can see everything. I'm not blocking your view. So we're gonna roll this back out. You can see all of our powdered sugar there. So I don't even clean until it's all the way done, right? Okay. So we are gonna just roll that back out. There we go. And now we're gonna smear all of our lovely filling all over this. And I'm telling you, if you've never had pumpkin roll before, you guys, it's like cream cheese, kind of like a cheesecake, but a cross between like a pumpkin spice cake. Like it's divine. It is so good. If you've never had one, you have to make it now. You know how. I walked you through it, and you've got the recipe, so you totally have to make it. It is so good. We have it Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then we usually love it so much we even make it at New Year's too. We tend to only have it around the holidays, and I don't know why that is, because I've got pumpkin that we grow all of our own pumpkin, and so I always freeze and save up a whole bunch. So I could make it, but it's just kind of one of those things you only make at the holidays, which may be why it feels so special, because we only have it about 3 times a year. But Grandma is the originator of this in our family, and she's kind of learned she makes 2. She usually brings 1 out, and then it gets gone, and so she has to keep the second one in reserve so that everybody can get enough, because we just love it. Okay, so we've got all of our cream cheese filling here, and we're just going to smear that all over this puppy. And I'm going to try not to eat it yet. It's really best after you get the filling and it all rolled back up that you put it in the fridge to let everything firm up and set before you try to cut it. But it's so hard because you know it's so good and you just want to get right into it. I should probably have a bigger spatula, but we're not going to go hunting one up right now. Okay guys, we have got pretty much all of that cream cheese filling out of here. And you just want to spread it fairly evenly all over. So it's kind of like you're doing cinnamon rolls, right? You're just putting a big mix of the filling, the frosting here, all over. And one of the comments that we had earlier that was fun was, I think was it Amber? Sorry if I get your name wrong. But I roll mine from the short end and go up like a sleeping bag, but she rolls hers from lengthwise, and she said that way she gets more out of it, more servings. I have a feeling though that my family would revolt because they like the biggest servings ever, but that was a great tip. So you can roll it either way, whatever way that you want to roll it, but if you really need to stretch it and get more servings out of it, I thought that was a great tip, so I wanted to make sure and share that with you if you're just joining us on the second part and you weren't here for part 1. Okay, so we want to take that all the way out to the edge for the most part. A little bit thicker in the center there. Okay guys, so now we want to roll this back all the way up. I'm going to get the little last bit off of my spatula. Okay, so I just start on the same end that we rolled it from to begin with. You want to always start from the same end so that it has some memory roll there. So let's see, actually I think I have this backwards. I should have marked it, but I didn't. I think this was the little end. This was the one that was rolled up the tightest. So we'll go there. So you just roll it. And so you want to make sure you put down quite a bit of powdered sugar because it will stick to your towel. And the powdered sugar is there to help it not stick to the towel as much. So you can see where I had more powdered sugar and where I didn't have quite enough because it's sticking just a little bit. But it's really easy to just pull it off. But you definitely don't want to skip the step of not powder sugaring your towel for rolling purposes. Okay guys, so then I've got a platter here, and you're just gonna set it seam side down, and see it's already got powdered sugar on it, so I don't need to dust the top with any more. So there's your pumpkin roll, you guys. Look at that. Look at that. I want to eat it so bad, but I've got to wait until tonight. So there's your pumpkin roll. So you're going to cover it with plastic wrap because you don't want it to dry out in the fridge. We don't want the cake part to dry out. So cover that up, seal that bad boy, put it in the fridge and let it chill for at least an hour. If you can let it chill a little bit longer and let everything kind of set, it's going to be best. But that's how you do it, you guys. That is how you make a pumpkin roll from scratch. All of Grandma's tips, and look, no cracking, no cracking. And if it does crack when you make it, it's okay. It still tastes as good, but it's kind of like the holy grail. Like if you're doing bone broth, you want that bad boy to gel. If you're making a pumpkin roll or a jelly roll, you don't want it to crack. So those are my best tips on how to make that. Like I said, you guys, if you want to get the recipe and the first set of instructions, you can get those at melissanorris.com/pumpkin roll has the printable version of the recipe. You can also get it in my new book, Handmade, that has over 100 recipes, family favorites, grandma and great-grandma's tips, and coupons to get aprons and other fun things. So you can get that at handmadethebook.com. And I hope you guys, I want to see if you make your pumpkin roll. I want to see pictures and tag me of it because I can't wait to see how it went for you and if you guys love it as much as we do. And if you've got questions about grinding your own flour, like I said, this was made with fresh ground spelt flour. So y'all, you can bake with fresh ground flour and whole wheat flour and it still tastes and looks amazing. But you can do it with all-purpose flour too if you don't have a grain mill. But if you're interested in that, you're going to want to go to the blog and check that out too as well. And you'll get all kinds of info about grinding your own fresh flour and baking and all of those fun things with it. Like I said, if you want to freeze this, if you guys want to make them up ahead of time and have them for Christmas or even Thanksgiving, if you need to have it done now, like you're like, I do not have enough time to do that on Thanksgiving Day and you want to serve it, make it now, make it this weekend, totally wrap it up really good, and then put it in a freezer bag, put it in the freezer and freeze it, and then just let it thaw in the fridge the night before, and then you can serve it at Thanksgiving. And you can make it now and freeze it and use it at Christmas and New Year's. It holds up really, really well in the freezer. You really can't tell much of a difference than if you just did it fresh and chilled it anyways. So that is my time-saving tip for you so that you can have them at the holidays with kind of out all of the work all on one day, right? So you can have your goodies already done for you.